Hi there. Thanks for joining us. My name is Ben Grill from the Insights Grill, consumer insights agency here based in Sydney. This is the Pink Monitor 2014. We're measuring the pulse of LGBT Australian consumers. Now, this is pretty common for brands today to be seeking increased awareness, relevance with consumers, talkability, word of mouth, and also just ongoing advocacy. But to get all four of those things can be pretty difficult for marketers. And what I've just described, it's not a marketing unicorn. It does actually exist. It's basically marketing to Australia's LGBT consumers. And, you know, one of the first questions we get asked quite often is, well, how many of them are there in the country? And, you know, numbers range from people saying it's anywhere as low as 3% of the population up to 10% of the population. We think it's somewhere more in the kind of 7% range. So somewhere around, 1.6 million Australians. So it's a sizable market. So why does all this matter? Well, first of all, you've heard the term PINKS before. It's parallel income, no kids yet. Although what we're finding is that more and more these days, LGBT homes do actually have children in them. But also, a lot of times when I do market research and I talk to regular Australian homes I ask them this question: which TV family do you feel most represents your family? And most times they say back to me, it's Modern Family. So we've just become more accustomed to this more diverse, inclusive family type here in this country. So there's a real critical mass in public acceptance. And then also on the slide here, you'll see a noodle's a noodle. And let me explain that. Basically, and this is based off of Barilla, the pasta company, recently, when they decided, their president decided to say that his pasta is for families and not gay people. So that upset and angered quite a few LGBT consumers. So the idea here is that a noodle's a noodle, and there's a lot of commodity products out there. There's not actually a huge difference between a Barilla noodle and a San Remo noodle. But what I'm saying is basically we buy based on our values, and we look for brands that share the same kinds of values that we hold dear to our hearts. So Pink Media Group is the company that ran this study, and just to give you an idea of a few of the clients that Pink Media Group has been working with over the years to help them reach the LGBT market, you can see them on this slide here. And it's a good mix of, you have auto brands, you have lifestyle, travel, leisure, health and wellness, personal care products, food. So, a lot of brands and companies really waking up to this market and understanding the potential upside that they offer. So moving along, what we did, we spoke to about 1,100 LGBT people, which is a pretty strong sample size for a targeted population like this. About 3/4 of them came from capital cities or the surrounding suburbs. It did skew a bit towards gay and bi men, about 6 in 10, and then we had about 4 in 10 who were lesbian or bi females. We did have a few transgender and intersex people as well. Not as many as we would like, but in future years we would like to get even more of that sample so that we can look at the data through their lens in particular. And then the majority of the respondents were between the ages of 25 and 44. When we start to look at the numbers and try to paint a picture of the lifestyle of the people who participated in the survey, we see that over a third of the men and over half of the women are in committed de facto commitment ceremony or even marriages already. And you can see their household incomes tend to increase as the income goes up. We talk a lot about the high disposable income of LGBT households. And of course, a lot of the time that comes down to them not having children necessarily. But what we found in the study was that 1 in 10 LGBT households already has a dependent child under the age of 18 living with them. When we look at the data separately, men versus the women, we actually see it's about 1 in 5 female households, 22% have a child under the age of 18 versus 6% of men. Now, I try to make surveys a bit more fun when people do them. So I always like to throw a little fun question in. So just to get the results going here, one thing that we asked was, who is Australia's favorite one-name diva? A very important debate that my friends and I have all the time. But what we found was that Lady Gaga came out as number 1, followed by Kylie, and then Madonna. So if anybody ever questions that, we have empirical evidence to prove that Gaga is Australia's favorite one-name diva. Getting back to the serious questions, though, we asked them to tell us 3 things that are important in their life or that they're passionate about. And the things that emerge, and this is a word cloud here, so the more times that they typed in the word, the larger it appears in the word cloud. So you see they typed in things like my friends, my family, my health, my partner, my pets, my work, all the kinds of things that you would expect a non-LGBT person to say is important to them in their lives. So we have the same priorities, passions, and aspirations as anyone. And then we also asked them to tell us some of their favorite brands. And, you know, just like non-LGBTs, you see a real spectrum of kind of higher-end brands and also more mass brands. So you've got things like Dyson and Aesop and Hugo Boss in there, but also, you know, Target and Kraft and Nivea, your more mass brands. So, you know, we purchase the same brands as well. Yet our media behaviors are markedly different. We have an entire universe of media that's targeting us that your average person on the street may not have even ever heard of. In fact, we found that 6 in 10 said that they watch, read, or listen to LGBT media that most straight people have never heard of before. We also found that 6 in 10 said that it's important for LGBT people to read, watch, and listen to LGBT-oriented media. There's a real sense of obligation, almost kind of civic duty to consume this media. I don't like the word relevance because it's been played out so much in the past few years in marketing and advertising worlds, but it really is about relevance. It's like when you're shopping or when you're suddenly on the market for some real estate. You start reading the real estate section of the newspaper. You start looking at real estate websites. You start watching real estate TV shows. But, you know, buying a new home is something most of us will only do a handful of times in our lives, whereas being LGBT is something that's relevant to us for our entire lives. And so that's why this media is so important to them. In fact, we found that about 8 in 10 are going to LGBT events, about 3/4 are visiting LGBT websites, and about 7 in 10 are reading LGBT magazines. Importantly, we also found that this is not just a, you know, once or twice a year kind of occurrence, but 86% of LGBT people have engaged with some form of LGBT media in the past week. So it's a high frequency media behavior. Like a lot of people, we are spending our days looking at a number of glowing screens, so digital is definitely the epicenter of our media universe. We found that 4 in 5 pretty much agree that they're always online, either through desktop, laptop, or their mobile. We had over half say that they're quick to try new websites and apps, and 4 in 5 saying that they're going to LGBT websites more or the same as compared to a year ago. On this next slide, we have a couple of those most popular LGBT news and lifestyle websites here, with 57% of the survey respondents saying that they've been to at least one of them in the past week alone. This is a headline that I can definitely relate to. We're slaves to our mobiles. 3 in 4 saying that they keep their mobile within arm's reach at all times. Probably also a good point to talk about the various LGBT dating apps, especially the ones targeting the men. We found that now 61% of men are on at least one of these apps, with Grindr being the most popular, followed by Scruff, Manhunt, and Gaydar. And these apps, some of them have an average user time of 1 hour a day, and some of them have over 300,000 registered gay or bi men on them already. So very popular form of media for LGBTs. Despite all this digital talk, there's actually a real love for print still that came out in the survey, with 7 in 10 saying that print's not dead. I still love reading magazines. And what we have in this country is a very good mix of state-based publications, and you can see them on the map here, as well as 2 national magazines, DNA and Lotto, Lesbians on the Loose. And, you know, in all cases, we have around kind of 35%, about, you know, just over a third of the respondents saying that they engage in these different print publications. So for any print publication today to be reaching, you know, a good third of its target audience is a very strong result. We're also into F2F, which is code word for face-to-face, the rise of convivial culture. So we spent so much time looking into our screens and dealing with media that there's a real appreciation for those events where we get out in the public and get together and have festivals, with 2 and 3 saying, I love going to a good festival. And you can see here the attendance levels for some of the bigger events like Mardi Gras in Sydney and Midsummer in Melbourne. And then probably the last media that I'd like to share with you is LGBT radio, which you may or may not have heard of. It depends on where you live. In Victoria, they've had Joy 94.9 FM around for just over 20 years now. And when we looked at the data of Victorian respondents, about a third, 32%, said that they've listened to an LGBT radio station in the past week. And here in New South Wales, where OX Live has been around for about 2 years, already 1 out of 10 people saying that they are listening to LGBT radio in New South Wales. With the advent of streaming music and people just realizing that you don't need to buy music anymore, you can really just stream it and listen to it, we anticipate these numbers will only grow in years to come. So thanks for joining us for the first section. The second section, we will be going over various brands that have been targeting the LGBT consumer market, ones that have been doing particularly well and some that haven't.